Hey guys, it's Justine here from I Should Read That, and today I am bringing you my February TBR. Now, first things first, I am recovering from being sick, so I'm not particularly perky, maybe a little bit dead behind the eyes right now, but I wanted to go ahead and get this video out because I'm trying really hard to work to a schedule. I don't want to fail before I start, so I am going to go ahead and do this video. Apologies if I'm in my Swamp Witch mode. It happens. It's January. So I have a ton of books that I want to read in the month of February, including my February readathon TBR, which I won't include those 5 books here. I'll link that video down below if you're interested in seeing what I'm going to read for that readathon, and you can participate in that readathon as well. I also have a ton of review copies that I would like to read, and this entire list is basically review copies. The review copy sort of deluge, splurge, whatever you want to call it, is hopefully going to be slowing down a little bit. I've been looking at what I've got coming up, and there's a ton of stuff coming out in early February, which is what a lot of these are. But hopefully I'm going to be able to get back to reading my own books in late February, early March. We'll see how that goes. But I have some February and some early March releases here. These are all things I'm really, really excited to read, and I am, fingers crossed, going to be able to get them all read in time, but I would love to have them done in the month of February. So going in no particular order, the first book that I have here is The Library of the Unwritten, and this is by A.J. Hackwith. This sounds amazing. It sounds kind of like The Unlikely Escape of Uriah Heep, but set in hell, which sounds amazing. So basically this book is set in a library in hell where the unfinished books from authors are kind of sorted and cataloged. I'm sure that's making a lot of authors sweat right now. But we follow a character named Claire, and she is the head librarian, and her job is to not only sort and catalog these books, but to also make sure that the characters stay in the books and that no one escapes. So of course, a hero from one of these books does escape in search of his author, and Claire has to try to track him down before there are huge consequences. So this sounds super fun. This comes out from Titan Books in February, and it just looks so fun. So fun. I am really, really looking forward to this. I think this is going to be a great read. Moving on to science fiction. I am so excited to read this book because it sounds so silly and like such a wonderful kind of adventure, and it's got so many things that I love in it. This is Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdez. It has, I don't know if you can see on the cover because it's a bit shiny, but it's got psychic space cats, which, like, come on, of course I'm gonna read the psychic space cat book. This book follows a character named Ava, and Ava is a captain of a spaceship, and her sister is kidnapped. So Ava has to make up the ransom money by going on all these incredibly dangerous missions, and of course everything just completely falls apart from there. There is, at some point in this book, a hold full of psychic cats, and the very first chapter in this book is Save the Cats, and it has that little cat on the front cover. This sounds amazing! I'm so excited for this! This just looks like it's going to be really good, silly fun, and maybe a little bit more of a light read with all of these maybe slightly more serious things that I have on my TBR. So this looks amazing. This comes out from Orbit in February. The next book that I have is a YA fantasy. This is The Queen's Assassin by Melissa de la Cruz. This sounds really interesting. It sounds like something that I have the potential to really enjoy. However, I have kind of gone off YA fantasy a little bit recently. I picked up from my slump from last year, you may remember. I read almost no YA fantasy last year, and I started picking them up again, and suddenly I've slumped again. So hopefully this book will be able to save me. We will see. This book follows 2 characters, one of which is Kaladin, and he is the most assassiny assassin ever. He is bound to the queen to kind of serve her will until she releases him. And we have another character named Shadow, and her family expects her to become a sort of lady of the court. However, she also wants to become an assassin. The two meet, the two have an attraction, and they uncover a web of lies in the court. This sounds like it could have the potential to be really, really fun. I am very much looking forward to this. This comes out in the UK on the 1st of March from Putnam Books. The next book that I am really looking forward to. It's another YA fantasy. However, unlike The Queen's Assassin, this takes place both in the real world and in fantasy world. So this is Havenfall by Sarah Holland. She is the author of Everlist, which I think was her debut novel, and Evermore, which is the second book in that duology. I really enjoyed Everlist, so I'm very much looking forward to reading Havenfall. This book takes place in a town in the Rocky Mountains in the United States called Haven, and Maddie and her family own the inn at Havenfall. So it seems like a very ordinary town, a very ordinary inn. However, underneath the inn are 4 doorways to magical worlds, including one of those doorways which has been closed forever. It's been completely shut off. So I'm sure you can imagine what happens in this book. Somehow that doorway opens to this strange land, and it has these big implications and consequences. So this looks really fun. I have been hearing really good things about this one from other people who have already read it, and I think it's going to be one that I really, really enjoy. This one comes out from Bloomsbury in March. So the next book that I have digitally. This is The Midnight Lie by Marie Rudkowski, and she is the author of The Winner's Curse trilogy, which I actually haven't read, but I own the first one. This is very classic me. And I believe this new duology is connected to that original trilogy, but I don't believe it is in such a way where if you haven't read the first trilogy like me, you will not be able to read and enjoy the second one. So the story follows Niram, who is a member of a oppressed class in her society, very much kind of beaten down by the wealthy elite. And one day she encounters a traveler, a mysterious traveler, who tells her that she can steal magic from the upper classes, and she has to kind of give up her life and put her trust in this stranger in order to do it. This sounds like it could be a really, really cool story. I know nothing about the world, so I have no real expectations going in. I know that people really, really enjoy that original trilogy, so I'm very curious to check out this world for myself. Next up, I have a book called There Will Come a Darkness by Katie Rose Poole. This comes out from Orbit in March as well. And this is one where the description seems really vague, which you know I really love. However, it means that I just don't have that much to tell you. But this takes place in a world in which there were once 7 prophets who kind of guided mankind, prevented wars, and basically kept everyone happy and healthy. However, 100 years ago they disappeared and left one final prophecy, that there will be this age of darkness and a new prophet will emerge. That's pretty much all I know. I think that this book might be marketed as YA in other countries, but I believe in the UK it is being marketed as adult. So it'll be really interesting to see how that works, because the last time that happened, it was with Angel Mage, and I did not particularly enjoy Angel Mage by Garth Nix because in the UK it was marketed as adult when it was really like young adult. So I'm very curious to see how this book is, but it looks like it's going to be a really, really interesting one, and it's also a debut. So my last digital review copy is 16th Watch by Mike Cole. I have never read his, I think it's Shadow Ops series, but I have read The Armored Saint, which is a proper fantasy book where I think Shadow Ops may be science fiction, like military science fiction, and this new book, 16th Watch, is going to be science fiction as well. And I've started this one, and I think it might end up being a little bit technical, so we'll see how it goes. But basically it is the Coast Guard in space. We follow a character named Captain Jane Oliver, and she, through a series of events, becomes one of the few people who can prevent the first lunar war. So this looks like it could be a lot of fun. It also looks like it could go straight over my head. We'll see. The next book that I have is a really interesting one because when making notes for this video, which I never usually do, I actually found out really what this book is about because it's been so vague, and it's something that I haven't really looked into much myself because, as you guys probably know, I really enjoy a vague description. So I'm very intrigued by this one. This is Sisters Grimm by Mina van Praag. This comes out from Transworld Books in February. It comes out very, very soon. So it seems a little bit complicated, but this book follows four sisters, Goldie, Liana, Scarlet, and Bee, and when they were children they dreamt of this place called Everywhere. It's kind of this magical, incredible place. And when they're 13 years old, they're sort of torn apart from each other in some sort of way that we do not know about. And at 18 they have to seek each other out, find elsewhere, and come into their magic powers. They each have a different elemental power. This sounds like it could be really, really interesting. I don't really know much about it, and I'm super intrigued by this, not only because it's beautiful, it's absolutely stunning, but I have heard really, really good things about her writing, and I've never read her before, so this could be a very interesting one for me. Next up is Wrangle Stone by Darren Charlton. This comes out from Stripes Books in February. This is a young adult horror book. It's a zombie book, and I'm really excited to read this because I would love to read more horror, but I know nothing about horror, and also I'm scared of my own shadow, so I'm not sure it's a great combination, but I think this would be a really good place for me to start. So this book takes place in the United States, in kind of a post-apocalyptic world in which winter never ends. So our main character, Peter, is sort of camped out in this place called Wranglestone in a national park. It's a lake, and they're kind of, I believe, living on an island in the middle of Lake Wranglestone. And he makes a big mistake one day, and he lets a stranger into the camp, and because of that he is exiled from the camp. So he has to basically his job now is to keep the undead away from their shores, and he sort of develops this relationship with this young man named Cooper, and together they discover some kind of deep, dark secret. It sounds really interesting. I'm very much looking forward to this one. I really have no kind of point of reference for this one because I've never read one of his books, and I've never really read much YA horror at all, so I'm very, very intrigued. And the last book that I have is The Wolf of Oren Yarrow by K.S. Veloso. This comes out from Orbit Books in February. I think this will probably be my next book. I don't know why I listed it last, but this is one I'm going to get to very, very soon. I've been waiting for this for absolute ages. This book follows a young woman named Talion, and she is the queen of her people on a very, very shaky throne. So we find out that the day before her coronation, her husband, who they have a marriage that's sort of cementing this alliance, very much a political marriage, he leaves. He just up and leaves her. And so that makes her kind of very tenuous hold on the throne even more shaky. And 5 years go by, and she receives a letter from her estranged husband requesting a meeting in a place across the sea, and what's meant to be a reunion actually turns out to be an assassination attempt, and she's kind of left in this strange new place, completely stranded, without anyone she can trust, and she has to fight her way back home. This sounds amazing. I'm so excited for this book. I think it's going to be just absolutely incredible, and I cannot wait to read it. So that is my February TBR. It's a lot of books. I think that's, what, how many? 10 books? Something like that. Plus I have my 5 for the February readathon. Fingers crossed that the month of February will be good for reading for me. I have been on a roll for January. I've read a lot. I've DNF'd a lot. You'll see that coming up in my January wrap-up video. But if I can keep the ball rolling, I should actually be able to do really well for myself this month. So fingers crossed. In the comments below, I would love to hear what you are planning on reading in the month of February. If you've read any of these books before, let me know what you thought of them, and let me know if you've got them in your TBR as well. I post bookish content to this channel fairly frequently, so go ahead and hit subscribe, check back soon, and I will see you next time.